I was a little intimidated, I think, as anyone, kind of associates with law enforcement, especially somewhat, an organization who is as recognizable.
Hey, Kayla. So I'm Ryan. Um,
Yeah. And I'm Alex.
Well, my name is Kayla Dredge. I grew up in York, Maine. I'm the class of 2019 from York High School. And I now currently live in Alexandria, Virginia, where I work as a human resource specialist.
So we just kind of want to know some more about you. So, if you could tell us, what do you do for fun? What are some of your hobbies? What do you like to do outside of work?
Mhm. Absolutely. So right now, a big thing for me, outside of work, what I do for fun, because I moved to a new city recently, I have been doing a lot of exploring on my own. It's very easy to hop on the train and just kind of go where it takes me. So every weekend, I try to go to a new restaurant, go to a new museum. All the museums are free around DC, so very helpful for me being a new grad out of college. So I like to try and do that. If I don't really want to go out, if it's raining, not great weather, whatever it is, my English major in me from my studies, I like to sit down with a good book. Every now and then, that's sort of how I decompress after work, or just a chill weekend day. And then some of the friends I've made here thus far through work and just around the city, we try to go out. We have a mini golfing bracket that we kind of do every weekend. We go to this place and see who can, who beats who on the weekend, and what type of day it's going to be for me. It normally doesn't end up being very well. I'm not great at mini golf, so I'm normally the loser, but it's a lot of fun to be able to, we're all working professionals, so be able to decompress together and hang out and do, some fun things that we can always look forward to every weekend. It's pretty great.
That's awesome.
yeah.
So how was your experience with York High School, kind of generally from freshman year to senior year? Friend groups, academics, just your general experience.
Yeah. So my overall experience with the high school might be a little different than others. I like to stay busy. I did things constantly. So I was normally at the high school for classes during the day, and then after school for some club, some sport. I was involved in sports all 3 seasons. I did field hockey, and then once York got volleyball, I transitioned to volleyball in the fall. I was the manager of the girls' basketball team in the winter, and then I was captain of the softball team and played softball all 4 years in the spring. So I definitely kept myself busy in that regard. In terms of academics, I really fell more towards the social sciences area, and English was one of my favorite subjects, turned into one of my majors in college. Loved political science, history, all that stuff. My time at York was able to, I think, prepare me really well for the college world. And because I naturally, I enjoyed learning, I enjoyed challenging myself, pushing the envelope a little bit, I was able to really flourish as an individual and prepare myself. Um,
That's awesome.
Oh, there we go. All
That's
right.
awesome. Super happy to hear that.
yeah.
Same thing, like softball. So we haven't even identified what college you went to. So if you could say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about that. Kind of my fault. um, I attended Wheaton College. It is a small liberal arts college in Norton, Massachusetts. So it's about 2 hours south of New York. So not too far, but just far enough to kind of have my own little bubble, when I need. That is where I got my bachelor's in English and psychology. I did a dual degree.
Awesome. And speaking of your double major, what made you double major in English and psychology? What really, was that something you were interested in high school, or was that something that came during college?
I love this
What's
question.
of
Good
interest to
question.
you?
Well, coming into undergrad, going to Wheaton, I had this mentality that I was going to major in political science and that I was going to go to law school and I was going to be a senator or something. I was going to work for the state of Maine and be a state representative or something like that. And I was like, well, I have a couple gaps in my schedule next semester. I, want to take a couple English classes. That's where I find my joy. I'm going to do it, just to do it. I had the time. And so I did. And my professor that I had for both of these, I had the same professor for both these classes. His name was James Byrne, and he was an immigrant from Ireland. He's been in the U.S. for 20 years. And, that I thought became like really interested, really motivated with my reading and my work. And one day towards the end of the semester, he had pulled me aside and he was like, Kayla, you seem to really enjoy the work. The work you're doing is wonderful, really stellar. Have you ever thought about majoring in English? And I kind of gave him my spiel. I was like, well, what am I going to do with that? I'm thinking about, how I'm going to pay off the loans I'm getting and the job to find after school. And he was like, that is definitely a concern to have. If you want to go into academia, if you want to further your education, become an English professor, a hard area to go into. And he was like, however, I do want to tell you that most employers will hire and are looking for people with either a liberal arts background or some form of, social sciences background because of the skills they gain, not necessarily the material. And I was like, well, okay, guess that's going to be. And then, so I switched my major to English. I took some English classes, and then similar enough, I had some gaps in my schedule. I think it was like the end of my sophomore year. And I was like, I took a psych class in high school. It was really cool. I'll just take another one, keep the interest going. And again, I had a professor I fell in love with. She was amazing. She's a forensic psychologist. So right up my alley, super, super cool. And that just totally changed my outlook. And I found out I'd be able to double major still going into the beginning of my junior year. So she was actually my advisor, helped me plan out my whole schedule, and the psychology major just kind of happened as something fun to add on to, but I think something that I really benefited in, skill-wise, again, honing in on those abilities that I can use in the workplace, not necessarily psychology-based material that I'm using, but skills that I learned and some things that I learned from her along the way to help me in my my search for a job, as well as what I do now.
Mm-hmm.
That's some.
And, we can move right into what you're doing now. What made you decide, or how did you end up working for the FBI?
So that's a great question. I never saw myself working for the FBI. I think most people who probably interacted with me in high school thought I might have been a little too bubbly, a little too fun, a little too, things that you don't really associate with people who work for the FBI. But when I was, it was my senior year of college, and it was right around February, March, the sort of fear of graduation, real excitement of graduation, but fear of officially becoming an adult and having to get a job and beginning to have bills and budget, all these things were kind of crumbling into one. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So I was on job hunt, any free second I had. I was on LinkedIn. I was on Handshake. I was like, okay, what am I going to do with my life now? And I came across, I don't know why I had it, but I followed the FBI page on LinkedIn. I was like, oh, they're the FBI. That's cool. Like, I'm just going to have them see what's going on. And they had a posting for a collegiate hiring initiative. So one of the programs they do is for new graduate college students. It can be undergrad, graduate school, whatever degree. You can apply to this sort of, I would call it like a distribution list. You apply, you go through the background check process, and then the end result is you are available for hire for essentially any unit and division in the Bureau. So lucky enough for me, with my background in psychology and my work with people, I would say at school, I had a couple different jobs on my college campus. So I really had a lot of
experience.
What am I trying to think? Yeah, let's put that way. I had a lot of experience with interacting with individuals, assisting in crisis, especially as an RA. So, human resources, I was kind of like, oh, like I technically qualify for that. Like I fall into that bucket. It's an entry level position for a new graduate. I was like, I'm just going to apply and say I did. If nothing comes from it, that's a shame, bummer, but whatever. So I apply, did all this. And then I received an email that I was selected for an interview. So I participated in the interview. And then essentially began the background process, which is very extensive. If you even look on the FBI website, on the recruitment page, for someone like me, fresh out of college, not a lot of history. It was pretty quick. And when I say pretty quick, it took 7 months. For some people, it takes over a year, 2 years. If you're a working professional who's moved a couple times, I know some people who it took 3 years for them to be cleared to begin full-time employment. So it definitely does vary. But I just remember, it's like how I saw this posting. I was like, if I don't take advantage of this opportunity, I'm going to wish I did. Months down the line, years down the line, like what would have happened if I did? Like who would have known if I got it or not? So I did. I went through the background check process. And then I was essentially cleared in November and was able to move and start my job in December.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Keeping with the FBI theme as much as possible, of course. How has your general experience been with the FBI? Just like generally, how has it been?
Oh, it's been great. I was a little intimidated, I think, as anyone, kind of associates with law enforcement, especially somewhat, an organization who is as recognizable. I mean, the TV shows, Criminal Minds, I think there's a show called FBI now. So it's not something that is exactly unknown. So for me going in, I was kind of like a little kid. I was like, oh my gosh, like I work for the FBI now. Like who said I was qualified for this? I feel like I'm still in college. Like what's happening? So I had a little, kind of childish excitement myself. But I realized, having been there for such a short time now, how dedicated everyone is. And I think some people, there's a lot based off of TV. I think everyone thinks anyone who works for the FBI carries a gun and kicks down doors. And as much as I would like to kick down the door myself and give it a try, I have yet to kick down a door. We don't do that in HR. And we don't carry guns either. But I think I didn't realize how much work went in behind the scenes for the FBI's mission. When people see the jackets, they see the responders, they know like, okay, something big's going down, but people are looking into it. People are, looking after us, something's happening, but something will be done about it. And I think oftentimes we don't think about the professionals who work behind the scenes to be able to do that. The administrative specialists who do the processing of paperwork, processing of arrest, processing of anything that comes in through a field office, or someone in HR like myself who is recruiting the future people who may be kicking down doors or who may be doing recruitment as well. So I think working there thus far and the experience I've had has been very eye-opening, along to my own, I think, general excitement that I had going in, and the ability to feel like I'm being able to make a difference. Even though I'm not the one kicking down doors, I could be bringing in the next person to kick down a door and to protect someone in a time of need. And I think that is really rewarding. And I wasn't expecting to be in a position as rewarding as soon as I did out of college. So overall, general experience has been great. It's been a learning curve for sure. And, living in a new city has also brought its own challenges and changes for someone who grew up in York, Maine, not exactly a big and thriving city itself. So it's been great. And I feel like I'm being able to challenge myself every day with a new opportunity.
That's awesome.
Yeah, glad to hear it. And finally, is there anything else you would like to add?
Oh, anything else I'd like to add? I feel like I talk enough that I should be able to add something. I think the one thing I will say, based on when you reached out about doing this podcast, for I think when you're in high school and preparing to go look for colleges, or maybe college isn't for you, and that is absolutely okay. I think we try to pressure people and students and kids all the time to be like, okay, you need to do this if you want to be successful. Well, success is defined as a lot of different ways. And I think for me, when I was preparing to go to college, because I knew it was the right choice for me, go back, I loved learning, I loved challenging myself. So I knew that was something I wanted to do for myself. But coming from a household with other siblings, not a large income household, I was worried about what my opportunities would be going to college. So I was planning on going to University of Maine, state school, getting as much funding as I could, going there, getting my degree, and then moving forward from that. I didn't really think about private schools. I was like, oh, the price tag on those, the regular prices, there's no way that's going to happen. I don't want to be in hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt. That's really awesome because it worked out extremely well for me. So I want the best for the students who come out of York High School.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Well,
thank you so much.
Thank you, Kayla. It was awesome hearing from you, and I think that's going to wrap it up.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us and being so open to sharing some information.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This was great. And any way I can influence the youth of York High School, I'm on for it.